I still have the dress hanging in my guest bedroom closet, wrapped in dry cleaner plastic like a corpse in a body bag. Every time I walk past it, I feel my chest tighten, and I remind myself to finally take it to Goodwill. But I don't, not yet. Maybe not ever. My name is Lauren. I'm 28, and I live in Kansas City, Missouri, in a small 2-bedroom apartment off Ward Parkway. I moved here 3 years ago when I got a job in medical sales, thinking it would be temporary, that I'd eventually end up back in Denver where I grew up. But life happens, or rather, life falls apart, and here I still am, drinking lukewarm coffee on a Saturday morning, staring at that damn dress. Let me back up. My best friend since college is a girl named Cassie. We met freshman year at the University of Colorado Boulder. She was my random roommate assignment, and by some miracle, we clicked instantly. Cassie is the kind of person who remembers your coffee order, sends you a meme exactly when you need it, and makes everyone in a room feel like they matter. She's blonde, bubbly, loud in the best way. People gravitate toward her. I was quieter, more of a planner, the responsible one who made sure we actually studied before the parties. Together, we balanced each other out. For 10 years, Cassie was my person. We lived together for 2 years after graduation, talked every single day, took trips to Chicago and Nashville and Portland. She flew out to Kansas City just to help me decorate my apartment when I first moved. She knew my family, my fears, my secret dream of opening a little bookstore someday. She was the sister I never had. And then there was Jake. Jake and I started dating in the spring of 2020, right before everything shut down. We met through a mutual friend at a brewery in the Crossroads Arts District. He was funny in that dry, understated way, with dark curly hair and these ridiculous retro sneakers he collected. He worked as an architect, talked about building design like it was poetry, and made me feel like I was the only person in the world when he looked at me. We dated for about 1.5 years. It wasn't perfect. He could be emotionally closed off, and I tended to overthink everything. But I loved him. I really did. I thought maybe he was the one. We talked about moving in together. I even started looking at rings, just casually, just to see what I might like. Then, in November 2021, everything fell apart. I don't even remember exactly what the final fight was about. Something stupid, probably. But it opened a door to every other thing we'd been ignoring. Him working late constantly, me feeling lonely, the way he'd shut down whenever I tried to talk about the future. He broke up with me on a Tuesday night, standing in my kitchen, and I remember just standing there holding a dish towel, not crying, not yelling, just feeling completely hollow. The next few months were brutal. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and just stare at the ceiling, running through every conversation, every text, every moment, trying to figure out where I went wrong. I called Cassie constantly. She was my rock. She'd answer at all hours, listen to me sob, tell me I deserved better, send me DoorDash gift cards so I'd actually eat something. She drove down from Omaha. She'd moved there for work in 2020, just to spend a weekend with me, bringing wine and face masks and a whole strategy for getting over Jake. He's not worth your tears, she told me, sitting on my couch, painting my toenails a bright coral color because she said my sad gray ones reflected my sad gray mood. You're going to look back at this and be grateful he showed you who he was before you wasted any more time. I believed her. Of course I did. She was Cassie. By the spring of 2022, I was starting to feel human again. I went back to the gym. I adopted a cat, a ridiculous orange tabby I named Gus. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, just proving to myself that I could. Cassie was dating someone too, she said. A guy named Mark she'd met on Hinge. She talked about him sometimes, how he was fine, how she wasn't sure if it was going anywhere. I didn't think much of it. She'd always been more private about her relationships than I was. Fast forward to this past April. Cassie called me on a Wednesday night, shrieking into the phone before I could even say hello. Oh my God, Lauren, oh my God. What? What happened? He proposed. Mark proposed. I'm engaged. I screamed too. I mean, what else do you do when your best friend tells you she's getting married? I was genuinely happy for her. She sounded so excited, so full of joy. She told me all about it. He'd taken her to that little bed and breakfast they loved in the Ozarks, proposed on the dock at sunset, the whole 9 yards. You have to come to Omaha this weekend, she said. I need to see you. We need to celebrate. And I have something to ask you. I knew what that something was. I could feel it coming and my heart swelled. She was going to ask me to be her maid of honor. Of course she was. I was her person, just like she was mine. So that Friday, I drove up to Omaha. I took the afternoon off work, put on a podcast, and made the 3-hour drive north on I-29. I was excited. A little jealous, maybe, of the way her life seemed to be falling into place while mine still felt a little messy, but mostly just excited for her. Cassie deserved happiness. I got to her apartment around 6 p.m. She lived in a trendy complex near the old market, exposed brick and concrete floors, very her. She buzzed me up, and when she opened the door, I could tell she'd been crying. Happy tears, I assumed? Her eyes were puffy, but she was smiling. Come in, she said, pulling me into a hug. She smelled like vanilla and something floral. I remember that detail vividly for some reason. We ordered pizza, opened a bottle of rosé, and sat on her balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, turning the sky all shades of pink and orange, and it felt like one of those perfect moments you want to bottle up and keep forever. So, she said, turning to face me, her wine glass balanced on the arm of her chair. I want to ask you something, yeah? I set my glass down, already feeling tears prick at my eyes. Will you be my maid of honor? I cried, of course I cried. I hugged her and said yes about 50 times, and we both laughed and wiped our eyes. And she handed me a glittery gift bag with a personalized wine glass inside that said, Maid of Honor, in cursive letters. And then the mood shifted. She got quiet. The way she always did when she was working up to something hard. She looked down at her hands, twisting her engagement ring around her finger. It was a beautiful ring, a round diamond with a thin gold band. I hadn't really looked at it before, but now I did. Lauren, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. There's something I need to tell you. About Mark. Okay, I said slowly. My stomach did a little flip, but I told myself I was being paranoid. What about him? She took a deep breath. Looked at me, then away. Looked back. Mark isn't his real name. I mean, it is his name, but that's not really the thing. Cassie, what are you talking about? She closed her eyes. Mark is Jake. I didn't understand at first. My brain literally could not compute what she was saying. Mark is Jake. That didn't make sense. Jake's name was Jake. Jake was my ex-boyfriend, the one she'd helped me cry over for months, the one she'd called a waste of my time. What? Was all I could say. She started crying then, real tears, not the happy kind. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you so many times. I didn't know how. And then it went on too long, and I thought if I just waited a little longer, maybe it wouldn't matter as much. And then he proposed, and I realized I couldn't keep it a secret anymore. My hands were shaking. I picked up my wine glass just to have something to hold on to. You've been dating Jake, my Jake, for how long? She wouldn't look at me. 2 years. I did the math in my head, and the numbers didn't make sense. 2 years ago was April 2022. Jake and I broke up in November 2021. That meant she started dating him about 5 months after we split. While she was still driving down to Kansas City to hold me while I cried. While she was painting my toenails and calling him a waste of my time. While I was heartbroken over him, I said, my voice coming out flat and strange. You were already with him. It wasn't like that, she said quickly. We didn't plan it. We ran into each other at a coffee shop in Omaha. He'd just moved here for a job I didn't even know. We started talking, and one thing led to another, and I swear to you, Lauren, I felt terrible about it. Every single day. You felt terrible, I repeated, and yet you kept doing it. She reached for my hand, and I pulled away like she'd burned me. I know I should have told you, I know, but I was scared of losing you. You were going through so much already, and I thought if I just gave it some time, maybe things with Jake wouldn't get serious, and then I'd never have to hurt you. But they did get serious, I said. Obviously, she nodded, tears streaming down her face. I love him, Lauren. I know that's the worst thing I could possibly say to you right now, but I do. And I love you too. You're my best friend. That's why this is so hard, I stood up. I didn't remember deciding to stand up. I just suddenly was on my feet, and my wine glass was on the floor, and the rosé was spreading across her concrete balcony like a slow-moving crime scene. You lied to my face for 2 years, I said. Every time I called you crying about him, you were lying. Every time you told me I deserved better, you were lying. Every time you asked me how I was doing and nodded along like you cared, you were lying. I wasn't lying about caring, she said, standing up too. I do care. I care so much. That part was real. I hated seeing you in pain, but not enough to stop sleeping with my ex-boyfriend. She flinched like I'd hit her. That's not fair? Not fair. I laughed and it came out sharp and hollow. You know what's not fair? Asking me to be your maid of honor when you're marrying the man who broke my heart. The man you helped me get over. The man you convinced me was wrong for me, while you were secretly building a life with him. I grabbed my purse off the kitchen counter. I didn't even look to see if I had my keys. I just needed to leave, needed to be anywhere but there. Lauren, please, she said, following me to the door. Please don't go. Let's talk about this. We can figure this out. I turned around and looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw someone I didn't recognize. The same face, the same blonde hair, the same kind eyes that had felt like home for a decade. But behind them was a stranger who had lied to me for 2 years without blinking. You should have told me a long time ago, I said. Not in person. Not after you guilted me into saying yes to being your maid of honor. You should have told me when it started. Or you should have told me before you asked me to stand next to you at your wedding. You chose the worst possible moment, Cassie. And I think you did it on purpose. I think you thought if you asked me first, I'd feel too obligated to be angry. Her face crumpled. That's not true, but we both knew it was. I walked out. I didn't run because running felt too dramatic, but I walked fast, down the hallway, into the elevator, across the lobby, out into the cool Omaha night. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could stop shaking enough to drive. The drive back to Kansas City was a blur. I don't remember most of it. I do remember pulling into my parking spot, walking up to my apartment, and seeing Gus waiting for me by the door, and just collapsing onto the floor with him in my arms, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, Cassie has called me 17 times. I know because I counted before I finally stopped looking at my phone. She's left voicemails, long rambling ones where she's crying and saying she's sorry, and shorter ones where she sounds almost angry, asking me why I won't just talk to her. She sent me a text that said, I still want you to be my maid of honor. The wedding is in October. I can't do this without you. I haven't responded to any of it. Jake hasn't reached out at all. I don't know if that's better or worse. Part of me wanted him to call, even just to say something. An apology, an explanation, anything. But nothing. Radio silence. Maybe he's too ashamed. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe Cassie told him to stay out of it. I'll probably never know. I told my mom everything. She lives in Denver now, retired, spends her time gardening and spoiling her dog. She was quiet for a long time after I finished talking, and then she said, Honey, that girl was never your friend. Friends don't do that. And I know she's right, but it doesn't make it hurt any less. My coworker Megan took me out for drinks last week and tried to cheer me up. She said I should post about it on social media, expose them both. But I don't want to be that person. I don't want to give them that kind of power over me. Besides, what would I even say? My best friend is marrying my ex, and I found out the night she asked me to be her maid of honor. It sounds like a bad movie plot. It sounds made up. I wish it were made up. The hardest part isn't even the betrayal, although that's bad enough. It's the grief. I lost 2 people at once. Jake was already gone, or I thought he was, but now I have to mourn him all over again. And Cassie, God, Cassie, I miss her. I miss her so much it makes me nauseous. I catch myself reaching for my phone to text her something funny Gus did, and then I remember, and it's like losing her all over again. I don't know if I'll go to the wedding. I don't know if I'll ever talk to her again. Part of me wants to forgive her, because 10 years of friendship is a long time to just throw away. But another part of me, a louder part most days, knows that I'll never be able to look at her without seeing the lie. Without wondering what else she hid from me. Without remembering all those nights I cried on her shoulder while she was already planning a future with the man who made me cry, so the dress still hangs in my guest closet. Mauve, floor length with a slit up the side. I was supposed to wear it while I gave a speech about how much Cassie meant to me. Now it's just a reminder that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you worst. I'm not asking for advice, really. I know what I need to do. But if anyone out there has been through something similar, found out a friend was hiding something unforgivable and didn't know whether to walk away or stay, I'd love to hear how you made peace with it. Because right now, peace feels about 1,000,000 miles away.